Hello, can you hear me? Now, this is the first presentation about the passive voice. And we are going to talk about passive voice in English as compared to passive voice in Spanish, and the main and general cases about the passive voice, how to construct, how to make a passive voice sentence, right? Now, first thing I have to tell you is main difference between passive voice in English and in Spanish is that it is much more frequent in English than it is in Spanish, right? And the reasons for this are two reasons. The first reason is that the structure in the Spanish sentence is much more flexible than in English. In English, we have a very rigid structure. Remember, we say subject, verb, object all the time. We need that subject all the time, yeah? It is a necessity in every sentence, yeah? It's an obligation to use the subject. Not in Spanish, but in English it is, right? So this is a big difference because sometimes we have a subject in the active voice sentence in English, which is not relevant. And we need to use a passive voice because of that, okay? There is a second reason in Spanish why we don't use the passive voice so much, and it is because we have the se pasivo. For example, se vende este local aquí, se fabrican estos coches de alta gama en Almusafes, in Valencia, for example, right? Okay, when we say se pasivo, we are substituting a lot of passive voices which will not be necessary in the Spanish language, but in the English language they will be necessary, right? Okay, so I'm going to show you some basic ideas about the passive voice, yeah? Now, the first thing is that we make the passive voice with the verb to be and the participle, right? For example, typical example is cheese is made in Italy, okay? The verb to be and the participle. And you can see some examples from different tenses. Present simple, is made. Past simple, was and found. Future, with will, and modal with can. But always with be, okay? The verb to be and plus the participle, right? Now, as I told you before, we use the passive voice when we want to emphasize the action, not the person, okay? When we say se hacen estos coches en Almusafes de alta gama, we don't, it is not important to mention the people who made the cars, but the action that these cars are made, okay? When we say somebody stole the money, then it means that somebody is not really important because the important part of the message is stole the money, okay? So stole the money, it could be better in a passive voice, okay? Right? Sorry. Okay, I got it back now. So when we have the money was stolen, this is a typical passive voice. We have brought the money into the subject. We have taken out somebody. Somebody is not really important. Okay, so somebody would come here as an agent. Okay, we have here by plus the agent. Okay, in this example, the telephone was invented by Alexander Graham Bell. Now the agent brings relevant information, but normally the information in the agent is not necessary. So 90% of the passive voice sentences will not have an agent at all, right? Okay, now let us go back to some more things that I want to tell you about the main passive structure. So let's go back to the PDF file, this one here. Let me take this out. Okay, well, this is a typical active and passive structure transformation. Yeah, this is the active. Someone locks the office every morning. Locks. Cierra con llave. Someone locks the office every morning. Now, this message in the active is not very relevant because at the beginning we have an element that is not important in the message. Someone, obviously, someone has to do it, but the someone part is not important. So this is the reason why this passive voice is relevant. It's much better to say the office is locked every morning than someone locks the office every morning, right? Now, basically for the active to passive transformation, what we do is take the object and turn it into the subject, as we can see here, okay? So the office becomes the subject, okay? And now we will see the transformation. Locks is locked. There is a two-step procedure in order to construct this, no? And I'm going to show you some more clear examples here. Okay, Here, in one of the exercises that you will have to do later on, and there is some little explanation of the transformation, the verb transformation in the passive voice, okay? These transformations has to follow two different steps. In the first step, we have to introduce the verb to be in the same tense as the active verb, okay? So when we say in the active, they make these cars in Japan, make is in the present simple, okay? So the verb to be has to be introduced in the present simple. Of course, if we have these cars, plural, we need to use are and not is, okay? So this is the first step, right? Now in the second step, we have the main verb, and the main verb becomes a participle, right? The main verb in the active voice. We have make, and this verb make will turn into made, as you can see here. So after following these two steps, we have got the transformation, the good transformation, right? Now, apart from this, I also wanted to show you some more examples of the correspondence of active verbs, active to passive verbs. Okay, let me bring this. Person keeps is kept. I mean, because it is simple present, keeps is a person, and to be is also present. Simple past kept, okay, and was. Always the verb to be will be in the tense that we are using. Simple future, then we have will be. In the conditional, we have would, so we also have would be, okay? All right, here you have this document is available to you and in your Moodle server, and you can check the transformation that are done from the active voice to the passive voice, okay? Well, that's about it for the moment. Thank you very much.